I'm Jeff Gordy, driver of the number 83 Pro Stock car. You man. Do you have a blooper tape?
Yeah, I'm building one too.
Hi, I'm Jeff Gordy, driver of the 83 Pro Stock car. Come see us Saturday night for the best of the best 150.
You're gonna try it again because it's 100. You had it right.
Okay.
Take two.
Hey, I'm Jesse DeVoe, the driver. I'm not very good with cameras.
You want to get Dave in here?
That
Hi, I'm Tim Elliott, flagman at the Speedway 660, and I'd like to welcome everybody next Saturday night to watch the sharpshooters drag it out on the quarter mile. Third mile.
Try again.
Okay, one more time.
Nicole's gonna come out here and do this in one shot, so.
That's fine, I don't care. Hi, it's Emily Mann. I drive the 75 Legend car. Come on out to see us, the Maritime.
That was worse. That wasn't even close to being right. You know what the worst thing is? She had it right the first two times, but it's not perfect, so she wants to do it again. Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, try again.
Hi, it's Emily Mann. I drive the 75 Legend car. Come on out next Saturday to see us. Just take one of the first two. You can take one of the first two, right?
Go.
Hey, I'm Andy Rogers, driver of the number 42, parts truck. Nope. No, we're cutting. This is a cut.
Okay.
Hey, I'm Jordan McKenzie. Come watch the 91 car win the Cat 250 next weekend. There you go.
Hi, I'm Dave Oblinus, driver of the 48 Burger King. Never mind, start over. Start again. All right. Hi, I'm Dave Oblinus, driver of the 48 Burger King Pro Stock. Come watch us Sunday at the...
I can tickle in the back here.
Hi, I'm Sarah McKay, driver of the AMK Builders Pro. No.
This one's all just a blooper reel. The
Yes.
whole thing
Can
is
you
just
do
a
a
blooper reel
bloopers?
at this point.
I am recording it, so.
Okay.
Corner Live episode number 45. Happy New Year, everybody. How's everybody doing so far tonight? Dylan, anything fun happened during the new year?
I may have lost a pound.
Well, there you go. That's a good story.
I'm trying a dry January, but with the way things are going, I picked a horrible month.
Yeah, it's and the restrictions are going to be extended here too by the sounds of it. I didn't catch the press conference today.
Yeah, well, Pat Healy, I'm sure will let us know. I think Pat was on the call, but yeah, we're getting a snowstorm here. I don't have a snowmobile. Everyone likes snowmobiling. I don't got one, and we'll see how we manage here. But no, it's nice to be back here in the new year. Had some fun doing that TCM, the Time Attack show a couple nights ago, Tim. That was a lot of fun with my good buddy Mike James, and nice getting back in the swing of things here, getting ready for the race season. So much news early on, right?
Absolutely, and I enjoyed the format of the Time Attack, except for that one consi, which was a little bit rough. But yeah. It is what it is. It happens. Denver, busy New Year for you?
Yeah, well, it's probably been a little quieter than most weeks, so that's been nice. But from a racing standpoint, it's absolutely been very busy. Lots of excitement, I guess. And, Dylan mentioned the snowstorm. I'm sure we'll get into this with our guest tonight, but snow might be beneficial to the 2022 schedule in a way.
Absolutely. We're going to chat schedule, at least the petty side of things with Wayne Smith in just a few moments time. And we'll get to that. But before we get to petty, there was also another schedule released on New Year's Eve over the New Year's break. And we'll get Paul to pop up the East Coast International Pro Stock Tour schedule on the screen, and returning to essentially where they were prior to the pandemic. 12 races, same racetrack, same 4 racetracks, same sort of outlay as to where those races are going to go. IWK 250s there. We assume, Dylan, that the 250 in Halifax will be that August 13th date. It's pretty, I don't want to say carbon copy or cookie cutter, but it's a great looking schedule. I know you love seeing Riverside on there.
Yeah, it's awesome to be getting there on June 11th, and then of course with the IWK 250 race weekend, September 10th, and really, Tim, I mean, we were chatting about the schedule. The only changes I can really see is that the home opener will be at Scotia Speed World as opposed to Petty pre-pandemic. This year, of course, it was at Scotia, or 2021 was at Scotia with everything getting shaken up there. But hopefully things go well. We get all 12 races in, and pretty exciting to see Petty there, and very exciting to see Oysterbed there. I know they had great success with their pro stock division. I know a lot of mainlanders and New Brunswickers, they want to get back to PEI and back to Oysterbed in 22.
Absolutely. And I chatted with Robbie a little bit over the New Year's Eve and asked him about schedule. They said they're still working on it, but they're trying to get back to what they had pre-2021, pre-COVID. Where they had a couple of off weeks mixed in between, but they're still working on it with their partners, their series, their what have yous over there. But Denver, I know you got to see some East Coast International Pro Stock Tour racing last year. Schedule looks pretty good for them for 2022.
It does, Tim. It's pretty exciting, and hopefully we get to see this full schedule run as is. You know, we've had 2 wacky years now. 2020 wasn't much of a year at all for the tour, and I mean, 2021 at least was almost a full season, so hopefully we get to see the full season, and you know, really a great schedule. It's like you said, it's the basics, but that's what everyone wants. We want to get back to that basics. We want to see some good old-fashioned short track racing, and you know, nothing is better in the Maritimes than the East Coast International Pro Stock Tour.
And now I know before we get to our next guest, there was some Maritime All-Star Sportsman dates announced as well, 3 at Riverside, including Dylan, that August date. I don't have their schedule to throw up on the screen, as I think everybody knows that that's on the call. It was a busy little day for me trying to get things all together. But 3 races at Riverside, Dylan, including the August 20, I think it's 20, whatever it is, I believe.
20th.
That grassroots racing deal, we believe, is going to be that date, along with a race in Shediac, a race in Sydney, and a race in Lake Dowsett to be announced, but the other 2 dates announced as well. So Craig McFettridge and the guys have been busy over there too.
Yeah, you know, I think I kind of roughly put it in my head, and it seems like they're going to kick it off in Shediac. At least that's the first early date that is there, July 16th. And then, of course, with the 250 weekend at Riverside, they'll be the headliner for the Friday night show. Pretty exciting. Essentially, when we had Craig on, it's essentially replacing the Napa Sportsman Series, or more so absorbing what that series was all about. But, of course, Bill Basil, what he did for that series and the track, we certainly appreciate and hope to see him at the track in 2022 coming up. But very exciting that we're going to have a new Sportsman Series at Riverside and traveling to Sydney Speedway, Shediac, and getting down to Lake Dowsett. And we were talking before to get some of the New Brunswickers or guys who wouldn't often go to Yarmouth Way down Clare Way to go there, and looking forward to the schedule coming out.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting season, and we still got some track schedules to come out. And I can tell you that we kind of mentioned this last week on the award show, that it seems like the last week or so in between Christmas and New Year's has been really, really busy for our racetracks and our series. I've heard from a lot of them getting ready for 2022. So if you're a race fan in Atlantic Canada, you have a lot to get excited about this season, whether it's in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, or even Newfoundland. Been talking to Mike James. Obviously, we had him do our show on Monday night as well, Dylan. So he's excited. Denver, so far, besides the Petty schedule, we're going to talk with Wayne in just a few moments' time, but what are you most excited about that we've seen so far?
Pretty much everything, just being back to the track. Winter sucks, but you know, there's a lot, 6 big pro stock races at Petty. That's huge. From a Miramichi standpoint, I'm excited to see that there's no conflicts with Petty this year. You know, tracks always try to work together. Conflicts are inevitable. But I only got to Petty a handful of times last year. So, you know, it's looking good to get down there a few more times this year. You know, the 250s, I think, are going to be big too. Can you imagine, you know, there hasn't been a 250 in Nova Scotia outside of the Jim Holohan 250 now since a full capacity 250 since 2019. That is going to be huge. You know, fingers crossed things go the right way. We don't get the next Transformer variant or something, you know, God knows what's going to happen. But hopefully things start to look up here as we head into spring and we get to see our full season, because there's a lot to be excited for. And, you know, hopefully drivers are getting those cars ready and ready to put on the show.
Absolutely. We are live and interactive here this evening, so be sure to drop us a question, comment, and what have you. Our guest is coming up. And by the way, I do see Mike James in the chat. And we will mention the hats as well. For those that are asking, Dylan, what's the question?
Any hats?
Yeah, we actually have hats now. We had to chase UPS for about 2 weeks to get the hats. Big thank you to Lee and Jerry at LJ Designs. We have the Flex Fits. We also have.
Don't show those, Tim. They're going to be in hot demand.
Well, that's the thing. We have bucket hats. I'm not a huge bucket hat person, but we had a couple on our crew, one that is still with us, that wanted bucket hats. So we do have bucket hats. We have like a dozen. They're going to the crew first. If we have any left, they will be going out. But if there is demand for them, we can get a reorder from LJ Design. So thank you to Lee and Jerry and all they do for us here at TCM. But that is that's coming. Amber McDonald's already in the chat wanting a bucket hat. Yeah, exactly. My phone's been lighting up for the last hour or so. But for Mike, I had to cover the head tonight so he wouldn't complain about it. So we had to do something. But anyways, it's good to see Mike and everybody in there. Drop us questions, drop us comments, because we're getting ready to roll into our guest here this evening. And it's a one guest show. And I know we had one when we had Frank Frazier on, but this one's going to be good as well. It's the co-owner of Petty International Raceway and the driver of the number 44 Pro Stock. He's won everything from here to Florida and about everything in between. Our guest this evening is Wayne Smith, and Wayne, we'll get you to turn the camera on so we can.
How do I do that?
Yeah.
How do I turn the camera on?
Try to get.
Start my video.
Yeah, there you go. Technology is a great thing when we get all the buttons lined up. There we go. Excellent. Wayne
Hey,
Smith,
Tim.
how you doing this evening?
Good. How about yourself?
Not bad. How's the weather down in Florida?
The weather's been good. It's been in the 80s pretty much every day. Had a day or two of rain here in the last 2 months, but I mean, it's been dry and it's been fun.
So getting ready for Speed Weeks then with all the weather. As long as you don't save the rain for Speed Weeks, we'll be fine, right?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, we're getting ready to go to Auburndale this weekend to run a Wheelman's. I'm not driving. I'm just helping a guy, but we've been working all week on a car, getting ready to go there for Saturday.
So you guys last year pieced together that Z2 car and got it ready and did a couple of races and went to Victory Lane and did all that important stuff. Won the new Smyrna Speedway Sportsman Championship on Speed Weeks. Anything in the works for you being behind the wheel this year?
No, not at this point. We haven't been working on nothing like to go racing with. There's a couple options maybe, but we'll see what happens in the future. I just enjoy helping people and been at it a long time.
Absolutely. We're live and interactive here this evening with Wayne Smith. Be sure to drop us a question or a comment and we'll get it to Wayne. I know Dylan's over there. Are you watching the Leafs game too?
I could,
okay,
but I'm gonna focus more on social media.
Okay, well, there you go. Chat with Dylan. Leave us a question or a comment. We'll get it on the show tonight. We are interactive. So I guess the biggest news. We'll start off with the Petty International Raceway schedule because that came out last week. What are you most excited about this schedule that we're popping up on the screen now?
Well, I mean, we put a race schedule out, and the biggest comments we had is the December 31st race. We're gonna have an Enduro, a Derby, backup race, maybe a trailer race, and then we're going to work that into having a New Year's Eve party.
So it's something, we had a couple of winter races throughout Atlantic Canada, but we haven't had something on the high banks. So it's a long ways away. It's still 360 something days away, but I'm sure the planning's already ongoing for that, right?
For sure. We're going to, like I say, we're going to probably have to find some tents put up in the pits. We'll have obviously a big bonfire. Probably going to do some music. We're thinking about maybe giving out the awards that night if we're going to do that. And I'm pretty sure we're probably going to do awards. So just try to make it all in one night and move into a party after that.
Absolutely. Lots of highlights to talk about on the schedule. We just came off talking about sports, and so we'll start with that. 4 late model Sportsman 100s and $4,000 to win on those 4 races with the stars beside. So how did that all come about? I know the 5K was really popular last year. So how did that come along to have 4 of those?
Well, it's just, I'm trying to make it bigger and better and try to do special events mostly at Petty. And we just said, you know what, we're going to do 4 of them. So we just put it on the schedule, and now we're working on getting some sponsorship, which I pretty much got 3, I think, pretty sure that's sponsored. Looking for one more. And no matter what, we're going to do them. So if it don't happen, we'll still do it. But looks like we're probably going to have all 4 sponsored.
Obviously, the 2 big weekends anchored by the 58th Jones Auto Body Riverglade International in memory of Pat Rogers and Ernie McLean, and the 9th annual Mike Stevens Memorial Weekend. What can you say about those two? They're staples. It's 2 events that everybody circles on their calendar, right?
Yeah, for sure. And obviously we're doing it for Mike Rogers' father. I think got to be a pretty big night. And the Mike Stevens always a big night. We always look forward to that one.
I want to ask you about that October 15th race. It's been a long time since we've had a major super late model race, sportsman race in October. We have the Atlantic Championships, but obviously last year being canceled and what have you. But we used to have that race in October at Petty, big sports and big super late model race. So that's another highlight on the schedule too.
Yeah, we wasn't wanting to go that late. And obviously when I sent the schedule to you, you told me, hey, you're going against Miramichi, and we didn't want to do that. So we're doing a flea market on the 16th. So we just moved. I'm sorry, we're doing a flea market on the 15th. So we just moved the flea market to the 16th. Now we're going to race on Saturday, providing weather. I mean, in the last 3 or 4 years, October's perfect. So we're going to try that deal too and see how it works.
And the tour is back for 3 shows.
And the tour is back for 3 shows, yes.
The East Coast International Pro Stock Tours are obviously the Passion Flooring and Interiors East Coast Mini Stock Tour, the Maritime League of Legends Tour. Dylan, you're excited for the Heart of a Champion Hot Rod Classics?
Yeah, that's going to be a highlight for me getting back there, Wayne. Love going there for any of the races coming up, but to have the Riverglade there on the Heart of a Champion Hot Rod Classics schedule is awesome. It's the only one so far, waiting for old Patty Lawrence to get his rear in gear and get that schedule going, right, Tim?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know he's been busy trying to put together dates, and the Atlantic Modified Tour, I'm sure, is going to be on there, but I know they're busy doing their schedule, getting everything, all the ducks in a row. So I'm sure they'll be on there a couple of times as well. But we're coming off a busy 2021 season. Obviously, it started off with restrictions and everything happening at the start, but you guys picked up some steam in a hurry. A lot of great racing between the pro stocks, the sportsmen, all the way down to the bandoleros. Looking back now, we've had a couple of months to kind of let it sink in. What were your highlights from the 2021 season?
I mean, you know what? It was a good year. I mean, wasn't quite as good as the year before, but it was one of our best 2 years we had since we opened the place. And I don't know what it was really why, but I think the COVID did it.
And from a racing perspective too, like you had Corey Hall really break out. You had a great Mike Stevens Memorial. Obviously, Craig Slonwhite has been the big story here in the last year or so. There's some really highlights racing wise. The racing's been phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, we had 31 cars for the Mike Stevens race. I mean, biggest show we ever had. I don't know what to say.
The sports and racing's been phenomenal. The mini stocks, the street stocks. We touched on the 5K a little bit earlier, but I think the announcement early in the year caught everybody kind of off guard. But again, you look at the big car counts that you had for those two; those were phenomenal races.
Yeah, we did that one, and we had what we call a dry tire race, and I mean that made the show. I mean, we sold tires that day in the pits. Everybody put them on their rims, and I think we had 30 or 31 cars that day for a sportsman race, and that was big. Started all.
Night of Destruction came back too.
Night of Destruction came back. Yep. We're going to do that again, and obviously we're going to do it at the end of the year, same deal. But yeah,
it's a busy schedule coming up this year, and we'll go to Dylan because I know there's a couple of drivers and a few over there that are chiming in already on social, including one of the drivers from the island that had a pretty good season over there in PEI.
Yeah, we got a couple of folks chiming in here. Norm Robichaux wrote that he's in for the trailer race. Wayne, did you watch Miramichi's trailer race? I know down in Florida that it's like every second race there practically. But what do you think about an old trailer race, and how is that going to work with Petty? Like, what adjustments are you going to have to make for that? Is it just going to be in an oval or like a figure eight, or what's going to happen there?
No, it will be an oval. We really ain't got the place to make a figure eight, but we'll do it as an oval. I might restrict how big the trailer can be. My fear is obviously coming off turn 4. If a trailer gets up on the side, I mean, it could hit the fence there the way the track's made. So we thought of that, and So we're not sure what restrictions we're going to do on trailer sizes yet.
Darren McKinnon wrote, I love Petty Speedway. Keep up the great work over there, guys. You've raced along with Darren for a long while. Any memories, Wayne, of racing against the 18 car in the Pro Stock Tour?
Yeah, he wrecked me one night in the 250. But that's all good. We're, you know what, we've been friends ever since, and you know, that's a part of racing. And you know, obviously he didn't like what I did, what he thought I did to him, and you know what, it's been great ever since.
Can we elaborate more on that wreck, or are we going to keep her down?
Well, you know what, he said I spun him, which, I mean, we got together. There's no doubt about it. We touched, but I didn't think we caused a problem, and he did, and he got in there, he got his car fixed, and come back out and wrecked us. You know, then a couple of things happened in the pits after that. It was, you know, it's part of racing, and you know, if it wasn't for that part of the racing, probably some of the fans wouldn't come back and watch the racing. So it's all good.
I think I've watched a few YouTube videos of that.
Yeah, it's still there. You can still go on there and say the IWK 250 fight, and it comes up. So it was a pretty wild night.
Hey, making memories one way or another. Logan Power wrote, the man right here, Wayne. Logan, street stock racer. And Wayne, some of those street stock races have been spectacular, where it's 3-wide racing, sometimes 4-wide racing there. What can street stockers expect in 2022 at Petty?
Well, I hope we get a good field of them. And you know what? We love watching them. They're probably the best racing around, street stock.
We'll do one more here from social media. We'll do 2 more here from social media, and then we'll throw back to Tim. Angela Johnson wrote, on the way home tonight, I saw a car with an Oval Outlaw sticker on its way home. Good to see that people are still repping those in Timberley, your hometown.
Exactly. Yeah, they're probably still there. I've seen a few myself around there.
And we'll go one more here. Jesse Thompson, he likes the schedule coming up for 2022.
That's good, because we might need Jesse.
Tim?
Yeah, absolutely. I see Jordan Frazier commented, hey, old man, you spinning someone. No, I can't see that at all. I don't know if that came from Frank or if that came from Jordan.
Well, she still owes me a hug, so we're not going to talk about her right now.
There you go. And I know the schedule, I'm sure there's a couple of more on there that are still chatting schedule, but leave those comments down below. We haven't had you on the show yet, so I want to step back and talk about your racing career, because obviously you've had championships, huge race wins. We'll start at the start. How did you get your start in racing?
Well, my father used to race back in the day, and my next door neighbor used to race. So one day we just decided we were going to go buy a mini stock. So we went down and got his own mini stock and pulled it home and worked on it, and went to Truro Onslow the first race. And first race I was in, I put it on his roof going down the front stretch. So you know what, we survived that year with that car, and beat and crashed it a few times. And then I bought a car from Danny Eddy, a mini stock, and it was unbeatable.
And the rest is history, I guess, right?
And it went from there, exactly.
So obviously from a mini stock up to MASCAR and the East Coast International Pro Stock Tour and all the success there, how did you get from that mini stock up to the late model division in Atlantic Canada?
Well, we run mini stock for, I mean, I can't tell you exactly how many years, but we run that for a while. And then Randy Jollymore come along with a street stock, and we run that and won a bunch of races with it. And then I built my own sportsman car, and we run that for a while. While I was running the street stock, I was running Friday night in Scotia Speed Road, and Saturday, I think it was in Onslow. And we were running both cars at that time. And then we done that for a few years, and then Frank Jackson come along and got a pro stock.
6 touring championships, and obviously from start to finish, there's a lot that has changed. What do you remember about those first couple of years touring around with the late model and racing the MASCAR series?
It was definitely fun. I mean, you know, we used to leave on a Friday and come back home on a Sunday and race on the weekend, and family was involved. And, you know, just, it was fun. It's still fun. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it.
And obviously, you got to race with some of the big names, some of the greats that have run, and obviously Frank is still running, doing some laps around. But what do you remember about those days? Do you have any fun stories about those early couple of years racing in NASCAR?
Well, I mean, I remember the first win I had. I mean, over PEI, and I was battling with Terry Clarkenberg over there. And if you remember how PEI used to be on the backstretch, there used to be actually dirt off the backstretch and then come into the corner, and there was grandstands up higher than that. And I remember like 4 or 5 laps to go, Terry Clapper was trying to pass me on the outside, and I had him out in the dirt for like 3 laps, and otherwise I probably wouldn't have won. And he come over, and Terry, I mean, we get along great, and wasn't a perfect night, me and Terry that night, but that was the first win I got.
And many, many more to come. When was that first championship? What do you remember about it?
Tell you the truth, Tim, I don't even remember. I don't even think about it, but it was definitely cool. It's not easy to win those things. We don't usually try. I just went and tried to win races, and if you win the races, and after that, it goes after itself.
When we had Frank on here, and even Brad Mann, we talked about some of the tracks that had been obviously the Hammond Rivers, the Moosehead Premium Dry Speedways, those tracks that are no longer with us or active or what have you. Onslow, Riverglade. Is there any one racetrack that you'd like to see as a driver perspective get one more race on?
You know what? I love them all. I won on every one of them, so they were all good tracks to me. I don't know. There's really no special one. Like I say, they were all good tracks. I enjoyed them all, and maybe we'll come back and try another one here soon. You never know.
There you go, because you have the Pro Stock sitting in the stable, right?
There's one in the tech shed, and I actually bought a frame from Chris Hughes just before I left to come down. One of George Donald's not old car. It only had 6 races on it, so I got that sitting there. And when I get back, I'm gonna try to make it work and try maybe run a race or two. You never know what might happen.
I want to chat the newer, the other end of the driving career, because you've been making some starts in street stocks and in pro stocks here the last couple of years. But we've got a couple of social media returns coming in. Keep them coming. But before we get to Dylan, I want to go to Denver because I know you have some questions to start off with for Wayne.
Absolutely. Well, Wayne, welcome onto the show. It's great to have you on here tonight. I want to ask you about some of your big wins to start off. The first one that comes to mind is that IWK 250 in 2009. I guess that race was a little bit, there was some controversy in front of you, and then you and Ken Vincent had a great battle for the win. What do you remember from that one?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it was Reagan Smith that was leading, and we come out on the halfway break, and Reagan was leading and I was second, and we went chasing him. I mean, we chased him for 40 laps or so, and you know what? He was just putting down such a pace. I just sort of backed off and watched him drive away, and then about 40 laps, 50 laps later, I noticed I was starting to catch him again, and I caught him and passed him, and he burned his brakes up is what happened. He just run so hard and burnt the brakes up, and then I think if I remember right, it was like 5 to go when a caution come out, and that would have been putting Kent was second. And we went green and battled Kent for a couple laps on the outside, and he probably had an opportunity to spin me for the win, but he didn't. We went ahead and won it.
When Petty Raceway reopened under your ownership, you won the first Pro Stock race. How cool was that to get that first win to usher in the new era of Petty Raceway?
Well, I didn't really win it. I finished second, and I don't even know who it was. I think that actually won it. Who was it, Ellen?
Jonathan.
Who was it?
Jonathan.
Jonathan. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And apparently the weights were wrong on his car or something that night. So the tour DQ'd him, and we ended up winning it that way.
So I want to ask you, how did it come to be Wayne Smith being owner of Petty Raceway? Obviously, you had Craig McFetteridge, Brett Benoit involved at first, but how did that come to be? Whatever made you want to buy a racetrack?
Well, I didn't really. It was actually Craig. We were up in the garage one night working on one of his sportsman cars. We were gearing up to get ready to go racing, and he said, we should call Jerry Campbell and see if he wants to sell Petty Raceway. And we talked a little bit more, and then I went ahead and he told me. I said, yeah, I'll call Jerry. So the next day I gave Gary a call. Actually, no, that's not how it went. He talked about it, and he said we should stop in and look at it. And we were heading to 660 for the 250 weekend. So I rolled in there with my truck and trailer and walked around and went out on the racetrack. You couldn't drive in there because it was grew up so bad. Just the roadway was here, so I drove in and got out and walked around, went up through the grandstands. The tower was all beat to pieces. And I said, Craig would never be interested in this thing. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done here. So I got back in my truck and headed to 660. And the next day, Craig shows up and he said, what do you think? I said, it's beat up pretty bad. He said, I don't think it's that bad. So it was weird for Craig to say that, but anyhow, we did. And so that's how it all started. Then I called Jerry and, and talked to him and said, yeah, I'll sell it. And so we talked some more and then then Brett got involved. And then we just went from there and bought it from Jerry. And it was like December or November, I guess it was, when we actually had the deal done. And we started working on that thing and worked all winter at it. And it was a perfect winter. And I don't think it hardly snowed all winter. So we got it built. And a week before the tour was coming there, because we had 2 tour races, a week before they were coming, the pits where we are today, where the pits are, it was still mud. I mean, you couldn't even drive on it. Me and Mike Stevens come up to test, and we had to drive our cars out on the racetrack, and we couldn't drive in the pits. It was that bad. But the boys got together and got it done, and we raced on it the first opening day.
There was a lot of work to get the place ready, but then there's been a lot of work go on since then with continuous improvements, building the walls, expanding the pits, the new bathroom and canteen in the pits. It's come a long ways. It really has. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, we try to do something every year. We've done the bathrooms, like you say, and we've done the tower. We've done walls. We built buildings. We worked on the parking lot. And this year we cleared almost 4 more acres to make it bigger for parking. So we shouldn't have an issue with parking anymore. Once we get there, most guys shouldn't have to park on the road now. They should have to park in the parking lot and come to the racetrack.
And fans always appreciate those continuous improvements. One more question before I throw it over to Dylan and social media. I want to know, it's been, 10, 11 years now. What's your favorite moment of owning Petty Raceway? Any one highlight that you can pick out and say, what an awesome day?
Well, it's always nice when you get a paycheck, but that don't happen too often. You know what? We make a barely living out of it, and we're happy with that. Otherwise, that's how we get to Florida every year. So, really, everyone's a special night there. There's really nothing I can say.
Dylan, do you got anything from social media? It seems like it's pretty busy.
Oh yeah, she's blown up here. We'll go starting from Stacy Clements. He wishes you, Wayne, and Ellen a happy new year, and he says, "Can't wait to come visit because my paperwork expired." Sounds like maybe a passport deal, but Stacy had a hell of a year in 21 with the Hot Rod Classics. And Wayne, I mentioned earlier, you guys were the first race we ever had with the Hot Rod Classics, and we're looking forward to getting back there in 22 with more cars. What are your thoughts on that vintage racing series?
Oh, it's pretty cool, man. I mean, you see some nice looking cars and sharp, and they're doing great jobs on them, and they put a good show on. We see that a lot of different people winning it. That's a part of the deal, how it works, and it's great, and that's why we bring them. We got one date on the calendar, and we're working on the second one. Hopefully that we can work that out and have 2 there again this year.
Perfect. Can't wait. Jordan Vino here. He's watching, and he wrote, hoping for the big sportsman shows to be a dry tires again. There's that whole topic about, soaking tires doing this. What can a sportsman team expect coming into 22?
For the four big races, they definitely will be dry tire races. It was pretty funny. I mean, everybody, the first one we did said, how are you going to make it a dry tire race? How are you going to stop guys from dumping softener in the tires? Said, I got a plan. So I went and got a roll of paper towel, and we got this logo with Petty on it and Mike Stevens 200 on it. So we do that we spray our tires with every year. So day before the race, I took a whole roll of paper towel and I laid this thing there and I sprayed on every little piece. And when everybody come the day of the race and put the tire on, I tore a piece off and we put one inside every tire. That was a way to try to make sure that nobody poured nothing inside the tire.
What advantages would someone get by doing that?
Well, tire softener definitely an advantage. There's no doubt about it, and a lot of work, and costly. You know, we had a lot of chat this so far this year about how to stop tire softener, and I don't think we have a 100% good plan on how to stop it. And I don't want to say this is how we're going to do it, because I don't think it's fair for somebody to show up, or 3/4 of the field will say show up with no tire softener, because they're very honest people, and most racers are not honest. So and then the rest, you know, another 10% of the class comes and they got tire softener on. We got no way to check it and prove it, and so we don't have a completely good way to say that we can say you can't have tire softener. And so the only way we can do it is, you know, buy the tire that day of the race and install it right at the racetrack and put my good old piece of paper towel inside of it and carry on. And it made the race, and that 5,000 to win race, man, was a good race.
Racers are liars?
No, I didn't say they were liars. Most of them are cheaters. I mean, we all been there.
Tom Sims watching Ace and Hole special. He wrote, good race and keep it up, Jay. I got to ask, I remember, Tim, we were at Don Cherry's in Sydney, and we were talking about, that was the time you were up there with the street stock. I hear JJ, I hear Wayne. What's the deal with that? How come there's JJ and how come there's Wayne?
Is that all you heard? I heard a lot worse than that.
I'm sure there's many more than that.
Back in the day when we were growing up, there was two of us that was called, you know, that was juniors, and so someone just put that name on me back in the day, and it just stuck forever. I mean, it's still today people call me that. I got all kinds of names. I got Wayne, I got Smitty, I got Jay. So if I hear any of them, and some other ones, and you know, I just answer to it, and it's all good.
I'm going to bounce around here a little bit on social media, going a bit further here. Travis Keefe wrote, hey guys, Happy New Year. Just wondering if the domestic 4-cylinder class is going to be a thing, or is that just a rumor? And I'm bringing it up because guys like Darren Wilcox are also watching. Will there be an expanded 4-cylinder division with domestics? And I remember there was rumor about maybe a sharpshooter division. What's the deal with four cylinders this year at Petty?
Yeah, we're going to release that here in the next couple of days. Hopefully, probably the first of next week where we do it. Just going to put it on Facebook, and what we're going to do, we're going to run the same rules that they do in the sharpshooters in 660. I mean, that class boomed. I mean, it was 30 cars up there. The reason we're doing it is because there's a lot of guys up in 660 who like to come to Petty to race, but their cars are not competitive with our 4-cylinder cars. I mean, that's been proven. So I figured if I can get 7 or 8 or 10 cars to start with, and then I put a show on, I can get 10 of their cars to come. Now we got 20 cars, we can put a show on. So that's what we're going to try to do with that. And we'll stick with their rules the way their rules is up there.
I'll grab one more here from social media. And technically, I guess it's from Ken McKenzie's. Kenny Jr.'s watching. He says, awesome schedule, awesome work, Wayne. And Kenny Sr. says 6 championships. How many pairs of vice grips might have been used?
Oh, I'm sure there's been a few. We back in the day, we didn't have a lot of money. So, I mean, there was things that would break, and you got to use what you got to use. Tie it together, vice grip together, and make it work. And, we still won races that way.
Wayne's an open book here, folks. Leave a comment below. Tim?
And you missed the Stacey Clements comment. He called Wayne, I think, Cy Harvey Jr.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, we're going to get to that.
And any stories that you can tell us with Cy?
Well, one night, Cy always hit, when Cy had one year there, he had a really good car that he bought from, I think he bought it from Rowley. Rowley bought it from Junior Henley, and they wrecked it, and then Rowley took it back and had it fixed, sold it to Cy. And Cy would show up with that car every night, and it was fast. He could have won every race that year, but Cy didn't like just running a race and winning it. He liked to be a guy that liked to race with somebody. So Cy's out front going, and I'm running second. And then all of a sudden I could see me closing. And I get to his bumper, and he starts brake checking me, just playing around. Well, the next thing, I get in him too hard, around he goes. So pair of us go to the back. Cy didn't win. So after the race, Cy comes down, and I'm still in the car because I must have went through tech because I was setting in tech. So I must have finished in the top 3 somewhere. Anyhow, Cy reached in and said, son, he said, that ain't how you race. And I said, Cy, I knew you were faster. Why didn't you just drive? He said, I was just playing around with you. That's side story. And that's, I mean, I've seen it so many times with the legend car. Ty's a great guy, great driver, done very well in racing. And he could have won a lot more if he would have just hammered down and went out and won the races.
He's into harness racing now. Maybe when you get up to his age, you'll get into horses, right?
I don't like horses. I was on a horse one time. I went to PEI, and Ellen talked me into going on a horse ride. So we go down on a horse ride. I think 3 or 4 of the kids is with us, and so we go down and they all get out horses, and everybody gets up on the horse, and I'm on it. These things are huge. I mean, you know how big a horse is. And they start going, and we're walking down along a creek. I mean, we're like 5 feet from the water, like a brook, a good brook, and the horse stopped, put his head down, starts eating. So the lady comes back and says, "Just yank on that on the ropes and yank it." Anyhow, I yanked it, up it come, and away we went. So we go a little bit further, down went the head again. So she comes back. She said, "Now yank it up, give it a kick in the side, and it will do it." So I yanked up on that, and I kicked that thing in the side. That thing turned completely around and run wide open back to the stall. That was basically my last horse ride I ever did. I thought I was going in the brook because my ass never touched down the whole way through. I was scared.
It sounds like just driving a race car, though. You got to learn it first, right?
You know what? It was a lot easier to learn how to drive a race car, I can tell you that.
I know you're still driving some race car stuff. Obviously, we'll talk about Florida in a second, but had the street stock for a year or so and tinkered around with that. How fun was that to get back into a street stock?
That was great fun. I mean, when I first went, Drew Lewis drove it a couple of times, and then I decided I was going to take it to the Ricky Bobby race, and I called Donnie up and told him what we had. It was a 305 motor, and we talked about it, and I said, well, I'm going to need a weight break. I mean, you know, with 305 against the 350, ain't got as much horsepower, obviously, and we know that. So Donnie told me 200 pounds, and I said 300, and anyhow, we agreed. I won my way and got a 300-pound brake. So we go there, and I took it out of Petty when I first geared it up and got ready, and it was faster than anybody ever was at Petty. And I had the transponder on, so I knew what wasn't right. So I said, you know, we got a pretty good piece. So I said to everybody when I was going, to Ken McKenzie and the guys, I said, when I get there, I'm going to unload this thing, going to one practice. If it's in the top 5, I'm not practicing no more with it. We're just going to park it and go race it. Well, I unloaded it, went out, and was top of the chart. So we parked it. And it was funny because Michael Cormier, obviously, you know, he wins a lot of races, and they never stopped practicing that day, just trying to beat my time. But anyhow, so we get in the race, and I think we won our heat race. So we started in the top 3 or 4, and away we go. And Michael started in front of me because he won his first heat race, I think. And I was behind Michael anyhow, and we followed Michael for a while. And we were leading, and then Michael caught a lap car, and I got under Michael and got by him. I led, and then Michael gave me the bumper. No, Michael got under me coming off of turn 4 and shoved me off in the dirt going in on the front stretch. So I just come to the next corner, got into him and drove him back up and by. And we kept going, and then we had the halfway break, and I led it from the halfway break to 5 to go. And there was a car that got spun by himself and went down through the infield, and I heard on the radio saying, go, 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 go to the car that was down. They didn't want to throw a caution. And when I come off of turn 2, he was coming on the backstretch. And when he come on the backstretch, by the time I got to him, I was right beside him. He took me right off the dirt in the backstretch, and Michael got under me, and it was 5 to go. And I said, you know what? I can't. I was on him. I mean, I could have probably given the bumper and probably got by him, but I didn't think that was the thing to do. So finished second.
Now, about a month, I think, before that, or a little more in change, you ran the 68 car up at 660. I think Michael had a work party or something, Earl was telling me, and you put that thing into victory lane. So how fun was it to drive that thing into victory lane?
Well, that thing's like driving a pro stock. I mean, it's the best street stock you're ever going to find. I think anybody can jump in that car and drive it. I mean, I think Neil Crawford drove it and won with it. Mike Dusty drove it and won with it. And Michael drove it and wins all the time with it. And it definitely it was pretty funny because we were out there practicing, and Rick Cashel not caught me. I just seen him coming, so I just waited for him because I wanted to get on the outside of him. That's the first time I drove a street stock in up 10 years. So I just waited for him and got on the outside of him and just played out there for a while. And he come in and come down. He said, "Man, that was the coolest thing I ever done was, race with you and da-da, never done it before and da-da-da." So anyhow, we went out and we started on the pole that race and we led every lap. It was funny because I was going to do a burnout at the end of the race, and Earl always told Michael, "If you ever do a burnout, you'll never drive one of my cars again." Well, I didn't care if I ever drove it again, so it didn't matter. But anyhow, I come on the front stretch and went to spin it thing, and it just died because the battery was stone dead. I could feel it with 10 to go that the battery was dead when we knew it. We had the alternator trouble that day, and if it would have been another couple of laps, that thing would have died. It would never finish the race. So it was pretty cool to do it.
I know Ricky told me that day that was one of the highlights of his career, being able to race with you. And Ricky's done so much with his racing career and won championships and won races and has been racing, I think, for 6 decades. So how neat is that to be able to do that? And even when I know you stepped into a mini stock a couple of years ago in Miramichi, how neat is it to still have that effect on those drivers when you hop into the seat?
That's pretty cool. I mean, go back to Ricky's story. I mean, Ricky thought it was great that day, and then couple of years last year I think it was, or was it last year? Yeah, I was helping out the tech shed in 660, and Ricky won the race, and Drew Cudmore was driving that car of mine up there that night, and he finished second, and I wasn't there because I never had nothing to do with it. He brought it, he raced it, he did all his things, and I was sitting there and said to Donnie, I said, "What's the exhaust roll here?" He goes, 2-inch. I said, "Well, them ones there were 2.5." So he looks down and he goes, grabs his micrometers and checks them. Sure enough, 2.5. And Donnie said, "I guess we're going to throw him out." And Ricky hated me ever since.
There you go. You talked about chasing that 68 car a little bit, Sydney at the end of the season. I know it was one of those racetracks that you hadn't been at for a while until that street stock race. What do you remember about that race a couple of years ago in October?
Got beat by the 68 again. No, I mean, we I think, what number was that yellow car there, Tim? He was fast.
26.
26. He was fast. I mean, he was the home favorite there. His street stock actually was way different than our guys. They had racer shocks on it. It had a few different things, and he was definitely the class of the field. And I was running second. He was leading, but I was holding my own. And next thing, the same old thing. I seen me closing. I caught him, pulled out past him, and went on. And then a caution come out with 5 or 6 to go again, and Michael's running second, and away we go. And the 305 just doesn't get out of the corner like the freight motor that he has, and he got his nose up under me, and I just couldn't hold him off, and I finished second again.
And then you end up at the end of this season with a pro stock. You mentioned at the top of the season that Cudmore drove that street stock and had a couple of races and whatever, and then you end up swapping with Randy Miller. How did that come about?
I was talking to Mike Dusty one day, and he said Randy Miller's wanting to trade his pro stock or something, and I said, well, maybe I'd be interested in trading it for my street stock. And I enjoyed driving the street stock, and I was going to let Trevor drive it some. And anyhow, the more I thought about it, and and I said, you know what, this thing, that's all that's going to be is a pile of work for me, because Trevor can't get there to work on it all the time. He lives in Halifax and we're in New Brunswick, so I got to do most of the work to keep it going. So I called him up and said, you know what, I'm going to do it. So and we loaded the street stock in the trailer and he'd over to PEI on a Thursday or something and brought it back home. And then I decided some crazy thing. I decided I was going to try to make it for the 6250. So it had no motor. We got it. So we put one of Earl's motors, crate motors in it, and went to 660. And I think it was 24 cars there or something. And every time out, we're in the top 10. Car was actually pretty good. But once we had some carburetor issues during the day, and once we got in the race, it was just fuming so bad it was gonna probably kill me. So my eyes started watering, so we decided to park it. Then I brought it home and figured out what was going on with that. And I was going to go to Shediac the last race, and they ended up canceling that. So it's still sitting there in the barn, and you know what? I don't know if I'll drive it, but Michael may drive it a couple more times. He run it the Mike Stevens race, done a great job. I think he finished 9th or 10th overall with it, and just survived it. And he wasn't the fastest car there, but he definitely was in nobody's way and did a great job.
So looking forward, is there one race that you'd like to run that pro stock in and, maybe get some laps underneath you?
Well, I'd like to win that 250 in Fredericton for sure. I never ever won it. I finished second, I think, 2 or 3 times. And one year I should have had it won, and with 5 to go, I had like a half a track on the second place car, and Benjamin, I think it's Travis Benjamin, decided he was going to pull the top stop, and he did, and brought a caution. There was 3 cars on the lead lap, so he whips in the pits, and I run the whole 250 with non-stop. We had a flat tire at lap 8. We went in, put a new tire on the left rear and filled it with gas, and we went the whole way. And Benjamin went in and put his tires on, or did something. I don't know exactly what he did. And Craig Slomwhite already had his tires, and so Craig lined up second, and Benjamin was third. And I said, you know what, Benjamin, I knew I was pretty sure I couldn't hold Craig off because my car took about 5 laps to really get going, and I couldn't hold Craig off on the outside. So I said, you know what, I'm letting Craig go. I'm not going to let Benjamin win this thing. So Craig went, and Benjamin got on the outside of me, and I wouldn't let him by. And he wasn't too happy to get the start-finish line after it was over. But I'd like to go win that thing. Probably not capable of doing it anymore because those young kids are hard to compete with today. But we may try it again. You never know.
You are sounding like Cy Harvey. I think that's the same excuse I got with the legend car here about a year ago when he stopped racing legend cars.
I never said I would stop, and I mean, I just know that you need to be 25 years old to do this nowadays, and I'm almost 57. So, but I thought that when I was down here in Florida last year with that Z2 car, when we were going to run that 200 lap race, and you know what kind of heat there in Florida. I mean, that day it was like 85 or 6 degrees and 200 laps in Florida. And I said to the boys, I said, my biggest fear is I don't know if I can go 200 laps. And we went 120 laps, and I never had a sweat worked up. So you never know.
We'll go to social here in just a moment, but we talked about 660, and I think one of the biggest one of those memorable races, I think at 660 was that photo finish. I think it was between you and Sean, because Sean was involved in a photo finish at Riverside, I think 3 years ago. And he told me it seems like every time there's a photo finish on this series, it's me and somebody else. And the first thing he thought of in Victory Lane was that race with you and him and Gary. What do you remember about that night?
I remember they coming over and giving me the victory. And then, after we got back at a tech, and then all of a sudden everybody starts coming with measure tapes, measuring transponders. And I said, damn, this is going to be a good one if our transponder's in the wrong spot, and because I couldn't tell in the car. I knew it was that close, and I'm sure Sean couldn't tell either. But anyhow, we measured the transponders, and mine was actually a quarter-inch back farther than it was supposed to be, and Sean's was pretty much right on. So that's where it ended, and we ended up winning the race that night.
We're going to go to social here, but I want to transition with this. I know you've driven a lot of race cars in your day, and I know your schedule is busy, but without looking at, if I have a race car available or whatever, division-wise, racetrack-wise, it doesn't matter, because I know we got a bunch of 4-cylinder guys watching. Is there any division that you'd like to hop into just for a race and give it a go?
I drive anything, that, for sure. Maybe I'll do the Derby this year. No, I ain't going to do no Derby, but you know what? That day I had Trevor's car out in Miramichi. I mean, we all loaded that thing, and same thing. I mean, we were first time I was fastest car there, and every practice after that, it just got slower and slower and slower, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And I'd go on the racetrack and have brakes when I start, and 2 laps I have no brakes, pedal be right to the floor. And we come in, I changed calipers, I changed brake pads, we bled the brakes, and just could not figure it out. So, but we figured it out in the race. We went out and started going, and I think it was 10 laps in, a caution come out, and the car was junk. I mean, we was going nowhere, and we were going around there. We're getting ready to go green, and next thing I looked, the right front tire's going up the racetrack. Well, come to find out, the spindle was broke, and as it was going into the corner, it was bending, and that was pushing the caliper back and caused me to have no brakes. So it was a deal. But I would definitely like to try the 4-cylinder class. It's pretty cool.
Well, we'll transition with this. Darren Wilcox is watching the 32 sharpshooter from Fredericton. He wants to know, Wayne, would you hop in my 32 for a big race?
Sure, why not?
There you go, Dylan. I think we found somebody else a ride. It's a common occurrence, it seems like, on this show.
Yeah, they're just handing out rides like crazy. I'm going to pull a couple of my questions before I get to social media, and I guess we'll go to cars. Wayne, you had the chance to drive a Pinty's car at Riverside a few years ago. What was it like getting behind the wheel of one of those cars?
That was probably one of the coolest things I've done. Obviously, Donald asked me to drive that thing, and we did it. And, actually, it wasn't Donald; it was Donald's father. So we did it, and so Donald had the car out because you ain't allowed to practice. I think it's either the week before or 4 days before. I just forget exactly what it was, but Donald had it out and blew the motor up in it. So, and I was supposed to go practice the next day in it. And so by the time we got a motor, it was the day before the race. So we got the motor in it. I never had a lap at all in it. So we show up on race day and and you don't get a lot of practice. And so we get there, and I think we qualified. I don't know exactly where we qualified. I think it was 20 cars at that time. And we get going, and the more laps I get, the better I'm getting. We got down a lap and got the lucky dog. And, and then we got going again and got down another lap, got the lucky dog, so back in the lead lap. So anyhow, we're on the lead lap with 60 to go, I think it was, at a 300 lap race. And I was the only guy out of the whole crew, cars, that had another set of tires in the pits. Because when you got the lucky dog, you couldn't pit and change tires. So we didn't do it. Anyhow, we went green, and that was I ain't saying we could have won it, but I think we could have had a top 5 car. We went green, and next thing I look, and there's water. Like a couple laps later, there's water shooting out of her. And so anyhow, the spotter told me to come in, so I come in and down pit road. And one of the cars on the caution before that got in a wreck and broke the back wheel off it. And there's a 1/4 inch spacer that's on those cars that must have lain on the racetrack, because that was right through the radiator.
Did you have to change up your driving style at all with those cars? Because Brad Mann told me one time that they're weird to drive because they're so much boxier. What was the big differences between the pro stock car you would have been driving at the time between the Pinty's car?
Definitely not the same car. I mean, obviously they're more floatier for the shocks they had on them, but I mean, if you're a race car driver, you can adapt to pretty much anything. It's just a matter of getting a few laps into thing and make it happen. I mean, it took me probably 150 laps to get how to figure out how to get in the corner and how to brake it. Because with our pro stock, we use so much brake, and those cars are like a momentum car, so you don't use as much brake. And that was another thing about it. You couldn't, for being a pro stock guy, I had to make sure I didn't burn the brakes up on it. I think if you want to look back a few times at Donald when he first started and things, that's what happened to him. He burnt the brakes up, and by lap 200, you got no brakes, and then you're done.
How come it was only the one and done for you? How come there wasn't another opportunity to try and do it again at Riverside, or maybe even another one of the tracks on the tour?
It's just one of those things. I mean, obviously we put some money in it. I mean, it's not a cheap deal. Donald was good enough to give me the car, and I think it ended up costing us $7,000 or $8,000 on top of that to do it, to buy the tires, and we had to have all our guys licensed, and we had to have suits, and I had to be a licensed NASCAR driver, and all that stuff costs money. So we had a good year that year. We won the 250 the same year, so we decided to take some of that money and do that. And when they offered us the car, that's why we did it. And just opportunity didn't come after that. I think Fleming drove it once for them after that once, I believe, and that was about it.
One more from me, Wayne. You had so many iconic paint schemes back in the day, and one of your sponsors back in the day was Skull Racing. They were such a big sponsor back in the NASCAR days. What was it like having a tobacco sponsor towards the end, really, when it was kind of falling out with racing and advertisement regulations and whatnot?
Well, it's pretty dizzy. I mean, you start smoking that stuff, you get dizzy. No, I tell you the truth, I never ever tried it. So I really, as far as tobacco, but it was pretty cool. Obviously they gave us some good money, and they were great people. They treated us very well. Maybe we still have them today. Maybe if it wasn't for the government coming in there and stopping all the tobaccos from sponsoring races. But, all those folks and the Skull people and the Need stores was great people to work with.
You're telling me you never tried a little bit of Skull Bandit?
Never. I wouldn't put that stuff in my mouth. I mean, you're down here in the U.S., every second person's spitting by your feet. I mean, you work on a race car and they'll spit by the right front tire, and you got to lay in that stuff to get under there and do it. It's awful to me.
Well, we'll move away from the chew spit to some questions about Petty this year. Gail Pratt's wondering, will there be a points championship in all the divisions this year at Petty?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to do that. And that's one of the things we're going to do on a New Year's Eve deal. We'll have stage set up, and we'll give all the awards out that night. I think that'd be pretty cool to do.
Doug Jago's wondering, what's the 305 rule for Petty in 2022?
There ain't one. No 305s allowed. Ever since the truck had a 305 in it, and I told him take it out. It's just too much controversy. So we're going to make everybody be on the same page. And I understand, a racer shows up, and obviously the lanes had that truck going pretty good, and I still think it will go pretty good with a 350 in it. Obviously, it's going to have to weigh the same as the rest of everybody and same rules. Only difference is going to be it's going to have a truck body on it. We're sticking together, and we got 5 tracks involved right now. We got Miramichi, we got Chediac, we got PEI, and we got 660 and Petty with pretty much 100% same rules. So if you don't have something right at Petty, you're not going to be able to race nowhere else. So I think that's going to be the coolest thing we had in years if we can make it all work.
Seems like every mini stock driver's chomping at the bit to race you now, Wayne, including Travis Keefe and Ryan McKnight. And they're saying, it'd be so cool to race you in a mini stock. And you would race anything, anywhere if offered, right?
Well, depends what it is. I mean, you have to. No, I'll race anything. If it's a race car, I'm sure if someone can drive it, I can drive it.
Well, let's talk about legend cars. Barry Cusack before was saying, hey, looking forward to Legends racing. But then Michael Cormier wrote, should ask him what he thinks about driving those legend cars. Have you got behind the wheel one of those small things?
Well, I remember back in the day, and I was a lot younger, obviously, a guy home just wanted me to set one up. So I set it up for him, and we went out to Scotia and practiced with it. And Cy showed up, and the other guy was doing most of the practice, but they had me in it a couple of times practicing. I had no clue about a legend car back in the day. I didn't even know how fast they went. And anyhow, so we were there practicing, and Cy shows up, and I get in it, go make some laps, come back in it. And the other guy was a bit slower than me. Obviously, he never drove a car before, so he would be. But anyhow, so a little later on, Cy comes over and starts talking, and he asked me, what it is and whose it is and what the deal is on it. Asked me if it had a 1250 in it, and da-da-da. And I just said, well, why, Cy? He said, because, you are the fastest car that he ever seen in a legend that goes speed road. I said, really? I don't know if Cy was just bowling me that day or what the deal was. But anyhow, it was cool. And then this last year I was at Petty, and Nathan Blackburn's car was there, and Mark was there. He had a couple of days vacation, and we were racing that weekend with Legends there. And so he had it out and do some work to it, and he wanted to come over. He said, why don't you take that Legend car out? I said, Mark, I really don't want it. I mean, I had my own Legend cars, and Danny Chisholm drove them for me one day, and he come up for a week to stay with me and Ellen, and the plan was we were going to do some testing with the Legend car because he was going to drive it for the year, and we had some issues with it, and the carburetors were messed up a bit, so took the carburetors off and had them fixed and put them back on. And when I put them back on, I had there's 4 clamps that hold the carburetors on, and I had it in the wrong spot. He goes out, warms it up. And next thing he comes down the back stretch, and he's coming into turn 3, and I said, lift, and he never did lift, and hit the wall and flipped the sucker 3 times. Boy. So Mark said to me, take it out. So I said, okay. I get in it. I go out, and I'm going around. I mean, I'm going pretty decent, and I come in and said, Mark, you know what? I don't want to drive it no more. I'm just scared I'm going to stuff it in the wall because they're so tricky. I mean, if you drove one and got used to it, obviously it ain't. There's no sway bar on them. The steering I found really way different than I remember. I don't know if it's because of the way the cars are set today or what it is, but it was way different. I just came in and practiced and said, I don't want to wreck his race car. I mean, Nathan was coming to race it, so I just parked it. And he got Michael to come up the next day and put a few laps on it, and that was the last time I was in a Legend car.
Dylan, before we continue with social, wasn't there something, did that put the stop to ever racing Winter Nationals? I think Ellen had told me a couple of years back that there was some sort of plan trying to be put together before the Z2 came along to run Masters at Winter Nationals. So did that have any effect on it?
No, I just got too busy that year. I had those 2 legend cars there, and I had one that after Danny wrecked it. No, I'm sorry. After Danny wrecked it, I got it up and running. But that was the year before that. And I just never got the 2 of them together because my buddy here, Kevin, I was going to bring the 2 cars down. He was going to drive one, I was going to drive the other one. And it just never, ever happened. It just run out of time and never got them together. And I had everything to put both cars together. And that was one of the plans we were going to do. And it would have been cool to race with Kevin because, I mean, he raced back in the day too. And then I raced a Z2 car. So that was more fun, I think, than a legend car.
There you go. Citrus is only a month away too, by the way, Dylan.
Hey, it's all getting close, right?
Absolutely.
We'll do a few more here. We'll throw back to you and Denver. Fred Bannister's watching, always here. Thanks a lot, Fred. He's wondering, Wayne, do you have any plans to bring back a pro stock class to Petty, kind of like 660, so an exclusive pro stock division?
Nah, I don't think. I mean, we tried that one year, and we started off with 15 or 16 cars, and the season just got down. We had 5 cars in the end. So we're really trying to just do special events. If you look at our schedule, the way it's set out, other than opening day, it's pretty much a special event night every night through the season, and big races, pro stock, sportsman's 100s. We got a couple good sponsors for Legends this year. Dan McKay. I think Sherwood's going to do something. We're going to have two nights. That's twin 40 nights, we're calling it. 500 to win each half of those legend races. 4-cylinders, we're doing the same thing. Ryan McKnight's been out and digging for some sponsorship, and I'm pretty sure he's got something in the works. We're going to have 2 nights of that. It's going to be twin 40s, and they're going to be 500 to win each one of those. So we're just looking at trying to do a special event deal, and that's what Petty started out to be when we first opened the place. Our deal was to only run special events, and we got moving forward, and car counts were good, so why not race? And we're 660 and us are working so good together, and all the tracks actually in New Brunswick working perfect. We got no dates against Miramichi this year. At this point, I didn't see 660 schedule, but I'm sure he's going to work with that. And our schedule might move around a little bit. I mean, we're just got it out there. If something comes up with 660 that they need one of those dates, I'm willing to help them out and move something around a little bit.
This is Tony Wright's question. They wrote, in your career, who was your favorite person to race against, and which person always gave you a chip on your shoulder during a race? So I guess someone you loved racing against, and maybe someone you may be yelling at in the pits later on.
You know what? We didn't do a lot of yelling. I mean, obviously we raced against Greg Stewart, was a great racer. Kerry Clappenberg, Frank Frazier, Scotty Frazier. I mean, there was our biggest battle most times with Scotty, and one night he win, next night I win. And I remember when Scotty was running ASA, and he come back, and the big deal was that race that they were running at Scotia, and they were pumping Scotty up big time, and we went racing, and me and Scotty was racing and got together, spun out, both of us, went to the back, and I don't know what lap it was, but anyhow, we worked our way up through, and next thing I'm leading again, and Scotty's second, and that's how it finished. And he come up and wouldn't shake my hand. He said, Wayne, you don't got to win them all. I said, well, that's what we're here to do.
Throw back to you, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. I see Kenny McKenzie is out there too, excited for the pro stock. So he's got a pro stock. The division total looks pretty healthy for this upcoming season. What are you most looking forward to pro stock wise?
Well, I mean, obviously we look forward to the tour coming. I mean, that's our goal. That's what the Petty was open for with the tour. Looking forward to the River Grade International. I mean, it's going to be an open race this year, which was always a tour race, and it always brought good car counts. Mike Rogers is back in this thing, and Ernie's wife actually is involved in this too, because it's for both of them. We're going to try to make it as big as the Mike Stevens race. Definitely when I get on the phone and I start talking to people, I try to make it. I mean, I don't want to see 15 cars at a race. I push hard to get my 25, 28 cars or 30 if possible. That's why we don't never send nobody home, because we enjoy them coming.
You've been doing a lot with the racetrack on one side or the other, obviously being inside a race car. You've been doing some teching with the East Coast International Pro Stock Tour, doing some race directing at Petty, as well as every other hat that you wear up there. What's probably the most fun, maybe most rewarding job of doing this outside the race car? What do you have more fun with?
It's all fun to me, Tim. I mean, I enjoy, obviously you see me there. I'm helping the guys out in tech. Actually, my first job is to get everybody in the pits the way I want them, because I'm pretty fussy how I park cars, because our pits ain't super big, so we need to get them tight. I mean, we have 100 cars there a lot of times, and we need to get it tight. So that's my first job. While that's going on, the guys are getting people through pre-tech. Actually, if you look last year, we didn't do a lot of pre-teching. We told the guys they know the rule book, and at the end of the day, this is what it's going to be. And we just walk through the pits a lot of times, make sure they got seat belts, helmets. Make sure they got seat belts, because I mean, there's guys that will race without a seat belt, including myself. I've done it. I jump in an old car and go out in the racetrack, and women on wheels car, whatever it may be, and not even have a seat belt or helmet on. So stupid, really, because I mean, you can definitely get hurt by it. So I do that and I enjoy that. And then I go from there. Practice. If someone needs something picked up on the racetrack, I'm running around the golf cart. I hear it on the radio. I jump out there and do that. Then I go up in the tower and do that. And then, I mean, there's nights there's people waiting for you in the pits after you do a racetrack. You got to come over and deal with that. Sometimes it's a fight you got to get in between or whatever it is. It's all fun, and we don't have a lot of fights at Petty. It's been pretty good. Guys been pretty good. It's been pretty, you get serious racers, it's going to be, you could have an issue. And, we have a couple of them, but not very often.
We're kind of bouncing around a little bit, but I do want to ask about the Z2 deal last year. Obviously, you and Kevin put the car together and ran the 417 deal, ran up front, had that restart deal, and then you go to New Smyrna and end up with the championship for Speed Week. So not a very long schedule, but a pretty productive schedule and a pretty successful schedule at that.
Well, we went down to 417. That was the first race we went to, and I think Kevin, we rolled down there on a Wednesday, and I think we stayed every day till race day. After that, we practiced 2 days in a row down there, and when we got there, and we went to Auburndale and shook it down, and then come back and changed a couple things, and then we went to 417, and we unloaded, and everybody was telling us how fast we had to go, and we were half a second off, and we worked and worked and worked, and every time we done something, I thought we were getting it better. But at times we're getting no better, but it felt better. And Kevin says, I think we need a set of tires. And I said, man, there's only like 80 laps on those, 90 laps on those tires that I think we need them. We bolted a set of tires on, we were top of the board, just like that. And then we went out, obviously, and we qualified 5th quickest and run 2nd for a long time in a race. And we never actually led any full laps, but we definitely led some laps in there that we were leading them. I mean, we had a shot to win that, I think. We were saving tires and not abusing them, and that place is pretty hard on tires. So who knows where it would have come in then. It would have been nice to win it. So then we left there, and then we went to New Smyrna. And we unloaded, and the first night we finished 2nd. And then the next night was only a 2-night deal. The next night we get there, and it's calling for rain, and so we were trying to change the car a little bit to try to make it a little quicker, and we changed a couple springs because we thought we were going to get into a practice, and it rained, and then we decided no, we go back to what we had. So we went back to what we had. And it rained harder and harder, and then it started clearing. And Kevin, he was having a couple of crowns at the time, and thinking all the way through this, and then he decides, you know what, we're going to change all 4 springs. So we changed all 4 springs, and there's no practice. We end up having no practice. So we go out, and we went green, and because they lined it up the way we finished the night before because of the rain. And the thing was horrible. It was dragging the racetrack. The sparks were flying. So we pitted 5 times in that race, and we ended up finishing 3rd that night, and come in and rolled in tech, and we were 3rd guy in line, and the first guys were in there, and the next thing I see pits flying and trophies going and throwing shit around. And anyhow, so they DQ'd the winner. They rolled through and they come and said, you finished second. I said, okay, well, it was cool. So next thing, we go through tech and we go back to our trailer, and then the tech guy comes over and says, you actually won the race. And I said, how did that happen? He said, well, they DQ'd both guys because both guys were fighting. So I said, where's my trophy? Well, trophy was in a bunch of little pieces. So we never ever got a trophy, but we, the lady that does the pictures down there, she come to us and said, the next night we were still there because we were there with Travis Wilson with a super. She said, I want you to roll it after all the races over and take some pictures because we won the championship. So that's what we did.
So how neat is it to have that feather in your cap? Because you've won a bunch of stuff and you've done the World Series before with your own race car. So how neat is it to be a World Series of Asphalt champion?
Wow, it was cool. I was back when we were running our pro stock down here, or whatever you want, they called pro lakes down here then. My biggest goal was just to get in the tech shed because Ricky Brooks was the tech guy down here, and we never did. One night we finished fourth, and one night we were leading with 4 to go, and a caution come out and went green, and the guy jacked me up, and we ended up that's the night we finished fourth. We probably should have won that night, and that was my goal the whole time, to try to get in the tech shed with Ricky Brooks.
You mentioned Auburndale. You mentioned Travis. Is there anything going on? Like, what's your schedule like between now and when you come home?
Who knows? Like I say, I got here on we got here Thursday, and Travis Wilson picked me up in the yard Friday morning. We went to New Smyrna, and he run his mod there that Friday because it was practice Friday and race Saturday, and he finished second that night. And then we come home, and the next week we went to 417. They had that big, I forget what it's called, some pro stock race they had down there, a super race. Some guy that died down there years ago that used to race. And I helped the guy that owns Auburndale, his kid, I helped him down there and did that deal. And his motor actually blew up that night, so we never got to finish. And then we come back and messed around in the Kevin's Grazier a bit. And then I went to the Snowball Derby and helped Rich Bickle, helped him for the week down there and tried to get him going better with me and Kevin, but just wasn't there. I mean, he had a provisional for the show, but just couldn't get it to happen, and the car just wasn't there, and he couldn't get nothing to happen. So this week I've been working. I started Monday, and we've been working all week on the sportsman car, like the Z2 car for Travis Rowland, and I've been working all week on that, trying to get ready for Auburndale this weekend. And there's a kid down here who's going to drive it down here. Ricky Brooks owns that tour now, and they said there was 35 cars that was registered for it, but we'll see that when it happens.
You mentioned Rich Bickle, final race of the Snowball Derby and his career. He's done about everything when it comes to his career, drove everything. How neat was it to work with him on that Snowball Derby deal?
He was pretty cool. I mean, obviously he's getting older, and but it was cool to work with someone. I never even knew who he was or what he was until I sat down and he started talking one night. We were worked down in Kevin's Grazier for 2 nights on it before we took it to the Derby, and he sat there, and some of the stuff he's done over the years that I never even knew who Rich Bickle was.
Florida, obviously, there's some different racing. There's some different things that they do with their show. I know the Ford V8 class is kind of neat that they have at Showtime and Citrus and what have you. Is there anything that you've taken note of down there that may or may not work up here that would be kind of new or kind of neat for racing up in the Maritimes?
Well, we thought about the Ford thing, but I called Dylan Lakehorn last year and asked him how many of these Ford LDDs are around. He says, you ain't going to find none because there just ain't none around. So that's not going to work. We're definitely in the works of trying to do something. I don't know if it's going to be a V6 class. Obviously, it won't be this year because we're going to try to open that new 4-cylinder deal up to try to get it going. But we're still in the works. My fear is with the 4-cylinder class or the mini stock that it's fading away. But I've seen this happen before, that we get down to 10 cars, and then all of a sudden 2 years later we had 17 cars weekly. So that's my only fear, is where that class is going to go, because it's getting hard to get those kind of cars anymore.
Before I go to Denver, I know Jordan Vino was watching, and he mentioned, how about playing games on the restarts in Florida with the sportsman cars? He wants to know about that.
Well, you probably, I went to Auburndale last year, or the week before we left to come home, took the Z2 car down there, and we went out and we qualified second quickest. We lost pole by 200,000. So then they do that pill flip. We end up starting ninth, and in 20 laps I was running third, and we took the green on the front stretch, and the second place car jumped the leader, and you know how that works down here. So the guy that was actually leading jumped out of the throttle. I got into the back of him, spun him, same old thing, spun him, and they put me to the back. So we went green. I was rolling back. I got back to fifth in 8 or 9 laps. I was running fifth again, but I bounced it off the wall. So I caution come out, and I said, Kevin on the radio, I said, I don't know what I did to the right front, but it feels like I got a flat. He said, well, you better come in. So the rule down here is that when you pit, they give you 3 caution laps to get whatever you need to go green again. So I rolled off the racetrack, but what happened is we win a couple caution laps. I think that might have been the confusion. I win a couple caution laps before I decided to come in. And when I come in, once I got there, they got the car jacked up. And next thing I heard on the radio, or Kevin says, they're going rolled up green. Well, they never even had the tire off yet. So they get the tire off, they get the other one, I hear go, zit, 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 and they drop it, and away I went. Well, I went fairly fast down pit road to get out, because at Auburndale, I think you've been there before, Tim. It goes around the back and come out on the racetrack, and they were just going down the front stretch with the rolled up green. I said to them on the radio, said, how many wheelers we get on? And I already knew we only had 3. But anyhow, we take the green, and then Kevin goes on the radio and said they blackbait you for speeding in the pit. So we just parked it after that. So the Z2 car really didn't have a lot of good luck other than New Smyrna. And that really, that's not really a super win to me, because, it wasn't done the way we wanted to.
Absolutely. Denver, we've been bouncing around on a lot of topics here tonight. Is there anything else that you have for Wayne?
There is a couple things I want to ask Wayne, and I guess we're going to bounce back a little more. Wayne, I want to ask you about the transition period between NASCAR and the formation of the Maritime Pro Stock Tour, because you were the last champion, I believe, in NASCAR, and then you won the first championship in the Pro Stock Tour. It kind of occurred right in the peak of your driving career. Take us back on what you remember from that transition.
Really was no big deal. Back when the NASCAR it was an association of a lot of the drivers were a part of the whole association, and things were just getting tough, and money was getting tough. So they decided that, and then Cecil come along and wanted to take the NASCAR tour over. And really none of the guys from the NASCAR wanted to give up. And I got involved and sort of talked them in and said, we need this change in order to keep this thing going. And there was tracks that owed the NASCAR money, and it was actually 2 racetracks that owed the money at that time. So that was coming at everybody, because how it worked is the money that come in is what money went out. And so if the tour didn't get paid, neither did the drivers. So all the drivers were owed money at that time. And anyhow, I went to a lot of meetings there with Cecil and Harry Poole and Van, and what the other guy's name was. Anyhow, it doesn't matter. There was 3 owners from Scotia that was doing it, and Basil, yeah, that was his name. Anyhow, we got it dealed, and the deal was that we would the tracks with those 2 tracks that owed us money would pay us, and they did. And so that was my part. I did that, and then we went in with Cecil, and the rules were the same. So it really was no transaction. It was just jumping into a new name of a tour and go racing again. And I think the first year we won 11 or 12 races out of the 13 what they had or something that year. There was no doubt we had to win the points, and so it was cool.
Is there any one of your 6 championships that are more memorable than any of the other ones?
They're all memorable. Obviously the last one. We had Petty at Open that time, and racing and trying to run Petty and win the championship was pretty cool.
Now, I asked this to a lot of different drivers, and it's different with you. You're in a different role where you are a promoter. So any one change you would like to see happen, going forward in racing?
As in what what
rules, promotion, anything. If there's one thing you could change in stock car racing in Atlantic Canada, what would it be?
Man, that's tough. I mean, obviously, we all would like to have more money to give the racer. I mean, that's the key. I mean, that's why we did these big races and trying to focus on them and trying to get sponsorship for them. Everybody can always use more money. I mean, these race cars are $100,000 race cars. I mean, a sportsman nowadays, 50, 60,000. A lot of these pro stocks are 120. I mean, a four-cylinder car you can't build probably for less than $5,000, maybe more than that nowadays. So definitely more money. It'd be nice to be able to pay them more, but there's only so much in the pot that you can give out.
Absolutely. The next question I want to ask is about the tire shortage situation. Do you have any insight or any expectations for how the 2022 season is going to go? Because I know Hoosier Tires already come out and said that they expect to produce fewer tires in 2022 than what they had produced in 2021, where we were already in a tire shortage.
Well, I think people are reading that wrong a little bit, because what Hoosier did is they took all their lines and brought them. They eliminated lines of tires that they wasn't selling a lot of, so that makes it sound like they're not going to produce as many tires. I think is what they're saying in that deal. I talked to Hoosier, which not Hoosier. I talked to Ron, which is our Hoosier guy. That's who we talked to, and I talked to him before we come down here to Florida, and I said, "What's the deal on the tires?" He said, "It's gonna be rough." He told him that Hoosier told him that they would make 150,000 less tires in 2022 than they did in 2021. So does that mean we're going to be a tire shortage? I hope not, because I mean, everybody's got big races on, and actually I've been in the works as we speak trying to figure out how to get tires and what to do. And the problem is Hoosier knows what we do in the Maritime, when we race and what we do, because they look at it every year. So I can't call up tomorrow and say, send me 700 tires, which they probably have them around, but they won't send them to me because they know we're not racing till May, which is what we thought we were going to do. So I don't know where it's going to be. I'm hoping that we're going to be in good shape. Ron's been good. I mean, it's been tough last summer a couple of times, but it seems like he always comes through with tires and helps us out, gets us where we need to be.
Absolutely, and hopefully they can make it work, and because that's obviously very important. Before I throw to Dylan on social media, I just noticed a question here from Sean Johnson. Not so much a question, but a comment about no false cautions and wanting to get rid of no false cautions. What are your take? You're the race director at Petty now. What's your take on the no false caution rule?
We have that now, sort of, if you want to speak about it. We have what they call a tap rule. So two drivers get together, and obviously somebody caused the problem. We all know that. If they come around and stop at the front side and tap on the roof, the person that taps the roof goes to the rear, and the other person gets the spot back. If nobody taps, both cars go to the rear. Obviously, I jack that down, because I mean, I'm watching. If I can catch what happened and say, okay, that was the 91 car that caused that problem, I'll put a little jack in. Well, if that happens more than 3 times in one night and he doesn't tap, then we put him in the pits. It never happened. It actually was good. It worked out pretty good last summer. There was a couple of issues that I thought a guy should have tapped and he didn't. But sometimes you get on the radios here with the spotters, and every spotter thinks that their driver's the person, and he don't cause a problem, so it ain't his fault. So he doesn't want to tap. So, but it worked pretty good at Petty last year, and I noticed I think 660 went along with that rule as they went to, I think.
I know we used the tap out rule in Miramichi too, and it worked really well. And we had the same thing where people were stepping up and accepting responsibility. And really, I think it made for cleaner racing as a whole, because then it's they don't want to be the person that messes up.
And it made it much better in the pits after the race. I mean, if a guy gets spun and he taps the roof and he goes to the back, you know what? The drivers and the crews are not wound up as bad in the pit that night.
Absolutely. I'm going to throw it over to Dylan. How's social media, Dylan?
Oh, it's still Blaze since the Oval Outlaws here. I'm going to go back to one of Stacy's comments here, and he wrote, his old mini stock is in my yard and Gord Ewing's old car. Thanks, Patty Lawrence, and ask him what the plan is. So, Wayne, your old mini stock from back in the day was unearthed, basically, from basically the ground. It was covered in trees and dirt and everything. How cool is it to see your old mini stock brought back from the woods?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, obviously Robbie McLean, probably 3 to 4 years ago, told me where that car was, and we kept saying we were going to go get it. And, obviously we got busy, same old thing. It never happened. And then Patty sent me a message here back before we left to come. I think it was just as we were getting ready to leave to come to Florida, and said, "Hey, I'm going to pick up your mini stock." I said, "Really?" Yep. So he goes and picks it up, and he sends me a picture or two, and said, "Alan," I said, "I don't know if that's my own mini stock or not for sure." It's hard to tell. Obviously, it's been a long time ago, and sort of forget what it really looked like. And so anyhow, that went on, and the deal was that we're going to try to gear it up to be in the vintage class of some kind. I don't know how we're going to make it competitive, but I told him if I put a 350 Chevy in it, maybe I could race with Stacy and them, maybe, and some big wide slicks or whatever. But so anyhow, then all of a sudden, I see on there that, hey, that was the wrong car. That's not Wayne Smith's car. And then they go and they get this one, and they sent me a picture of this one, and this one's definitely it, because as soon as I look at the front of it, I know that's my car. It still had the same nose on it that it was when I sold it in PEI. So I know that's the one. So someone said it's pretty rough, but it's only metal, and maybe we can weld some stuff to it, get it going again, and maybe get it back on the vintage series at one point.
A lot of nice comments, Wayne, saying, hey, you're a legend. Thank you for all you've done with Petty, including one comment here from Chris Ewing, who wrote, Wayne is a 6-time champion with the nickname the Oval Outlaw, and you don't get that for being nice. Wayne, you're a legend. Thank you for all you do and what you've done for the sport. How does it feel to be so respected by so many people in this industry?
It's pretty cool. I mean, obviously, respect over the years been good, and people still help me today. That helped me back then.
Scanning through here as well. We got a comment here from Robert Miner. They wrote, who's your favorite driver? Who are some of the guys you grew up that were fans of, whether it was NASCAR or maybe the good old days of racing here in the Maritimes?
I used to watch Dale Earnhardt, obviously. I probably drove like him. So, I mean, he was definitely my favorite back in the day. All the guys around home are good. I mean, I used to like racing with all of them. I mean, like I say, it's tight competition, and we run hard, and, we were there to win races, and sometimes that didn't come out on the right way at times.
Got one more here, and we'll throw it back to Tim in just a moment, but and it's kind of a Tim question. We always hear drivers saying, oh, I'm not retiring, the R word. Is there ever a thought of, I'm just going to be the race director full time, or are you always still going to have that urge to get behind the wheel?
I think we all still going to have the urge if you're a race car driver. I mean, Rolly's still got the urge, and he's tried it. Look, he's way older than me, and obviously went out and tried a couple of times and realized that he's not going to be able to compete or stay in the heat of it. And, we'll see what happens this summer, maybe, and try one, and that might prove the point right there.
Looking forward to seeing you back in the track, Wayne. Tim?
Yeah, and we do have one comment there from a guy that you're familiar with, Dylan, Hollywood Jason Connors. By the way, before we get into the talk about it, I know he has a Facebook page, and he's been building a new 4-cylinder car for the year. You want to talk about drivers that have personality? Hollywood Connors is definitely, definitely it. So I think looking at potentially doing some traveling. So that would be cool, Dylan, to see him hit the road and hit the high banks. I think he'd enjoy that.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Once you get a mini stock at Riverside, it'll change you.
Yeah, absolutely. Valley Raceway is the only real oval dirt track operating in the Maritimes. Wayne, how much dirt racing have you done?
Actually, back in the day when PEI was dirt, they invited, we were running street stocks back then, me and Roger Miller, and they invited the street stocks over there. And I'm not sure if it was just me and Roger Winter or a few of us, but we went over there, and I was driving for Randy Jollymore at the time, and we went over there, and we went out and practice, and those guys are going around there, and they're sideways, and the dirt's flying, and me and Roger was just driving the place just like it was asphalt. We started in the field somewhere. I don't know how they qualified that night, but anyhow, we come up through, and Roger was leading, and I was second. And Roger won it, and I finished second that night.
Now, besides Valley Raceway, is there any racetrack around here that you haven't run on? I know Lake Dowsett's a little ways away, but is there any racetrack that you haven't driven on around here in the Maritimes?
I drove one. I drove one right through set in my street car. That's the only thing I ever. That's the only track that I know in the Maritimes that I haven't raced on. I mean, I've done Hammond River and I've done Sydney. What else is there around that's been closed?
Besides going across to Newfoundland.
Yeah, exactly. No. Yeah, I never been to Newfoundland. I never been to Newfoundland in my life. So, yeah, I pretty much drove them all around the Maritimes.
Well, Patty's got a couple of pro stocks over there, and he always toys about putting together a pro stock division. So if anybody's gonna, get a couple laps in, they may as well call you, right?
Exactly.
I know they're working towards a big schedule too, so that might have to be on your bucket list at some point. We'll make last call for social media now, getting towards the top of the hour here in a bit. I know Randy Titus is chomping at the bit to get to Lake Dowsett. I think this might be Chris Ewing still. Any predictions for your nephew Russell Smith Jr. on the tour this year with a full-time ride with Nova Racing?
Well, I've watched a lot of guys racing, and I hope good luck. But I mean, I've seen it happen so many times that a guy jump in a car and go run one or two races and do really well, and then all of a sudden they decide they're going to run the season and doesn't do that well. It's weird how that happens. I don't know why it happens. I mean, I hope it don't happen to him, but I've seen it happen. So you gotta be sitting there and thinking about that all the time. And obviously Georgia put a good car together for him for those two races. And I think he could have probably won the very first one he was in with that car if it wasn't for the axle braking, because it looked like he had a pretty dominant car. But I would definitely not be too pumped. I mean, you're pumped, but you got to make sure you understand. I've seen it happen so many times.
Obviously, with the tour, they had Craig Slonwhite come in and win that championship. Good news story for them. We had Cole on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he's talking about going part-time and doing some stuff stateside. And obviously, Dylan Blankhorn is still looking at that part-time role. Slonwhite will be back. Is there anybody else that you kind of have circled on your radar 6 months out that could very well run for that championship and try to knock Craig off the crown?
I mean, obviously, you got Corey Hall if he decides to run full-time. I have no idea what they're doing. I mean, you got Corey Hall. You got Mike Rogers, and I never ever seen Mike Rogers run much other than the few that he did, but I know he's got a brand new car coming, and someone said back in the day he was a good runner with the sportsman stuff, so you got him. Obviously you got Cole. I'm Jared. I'm sorry, Jared. Jared's the last 3 or 4 races, man, he's been there, and he looks like he can do it. So there's a few people there that's capable of doing it.
You kind of mentioned the Maritime Street Stock Series and these tracks all working together. I know there's been a lot of meetings together. What are you most looking forward to on that side with the tracks working together, schedule-wise, Street Stock Series maybe coming back? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the Street Stock thing. I'm sure something's going to happen there. We're just trying to get Brent's actually working on trying to get the rules writ up that we have come up with for the Street Stocks, and we get that out first, and then we'll decide what we're going to do on the other half. That's what I'm saying about our schedule. It's there. It could be changed around a slight little bit. That's basically the races that we're going to try to run, and it could change just slightly.
Absolutely. A couple of more questions left. Denver, we'll kick you one more time. What do you have final thoughts here before we get ready to go back to social?
I actually have a question for Wayne from this summer, and it's kind of a bit of a fun question. Wayne, I want to know how the hell you guys convinced Earl to drive the Petty Patrol in your Enduro.
Well, I couldn't do it. He actually offered to do it, and it was surprised because I'll tell you a story on Earl. One day we were all sitting there in this back, and Craig helped own the track, and I owned probably 5 or 6 of those women on wheel cars because I was trying to get the class going, so I built them, and they were there, and the women were driving them, and we decided one day, you know what, we're all going to go out and have some fun. So it was either Saturday or Sunday, and we go out, and we're going around, and me and Craig's messing around, and I spin him out, and da-da-da-da, and then we come in, and Earl's standing there, and I said, Earl, get one of the cars. No. Come on, Earl. So they convinced him to get in. Well, he goes out. He said, only way I'm going to do it is Wayne don't come on the racetrack. So he goes out, and he's doing a few laps. Well, then I jump in the car, and I go out, and he goes by the opening in the pits, and I come flying up behind him and get on him. And I pushed him around there about 4 laps, and it wouldn't get off his bumper. And when he come in, the brakes were so hot they caught a fire in the pits because he was trying to hold me back because he was so scared. And but it was funny. But Earl has offered to do it, and we needed someone to do it, and so he did it, and he done a great job. I mean, he got a couple of times. We had a guy all mad, and the guy after the race come over. He said, "You were trying to kill me." I said, "What he was trying to kill you?" He said, he turned me, he shoved me right up the racetrack. I said, "Buddy, you turned the wheel there. I mean, Earl's pushing him. You had to turn the wheel for him to go up there." Anyhow, he was laughing about it, man. It was cool. We're going to do that again. Obviously, we're going to, in those doors, we're going to have a car out there that can push them out of the way. Just that I got to convince these guys with this Enduro stuff that I don't know why you're trying to wreck your stuff, because you don't get paid until you win the race. And if you're wrecked on lap 20, you're not going to never win it. So you could be down 5 laps at lap 50 and still win that thing.
I gotta say, Earl driving the Petty Patrol probably made that show. That was probably among the most fun I had watching anything at a racetrack all year. Maybe because the demolition for once wasn't my problem, but it was definitely fun to watch, and that definitely made the show.
So here's what I think we should do for this year. We should get Tim there to drive the Petty Patrol in the Enduro.
There we go.
Isn't that same one as 250 weekend in Halifax?
Oh, yeah, it is. But we got one in January.
There's no conflict there. I knew you were going with that.
Exactly. And we'll put snow tires on it for you.
I like that idea. That should be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we go back to Denver, though, Miramichi's had those match races back and forth where they put 2 cars together, and Bob and Riley and a couple of others were up there between you and Earl. Same prepared race cars. Who would win?
Well, you know who's going to win. Earl uses brakes all the time.
So you're saying Earl's going to win?
No, Earl ain't going to win. You're guaranteed Earl ain't going to win. Probably Earl would have that thing cheated up somehow. You know how Earl is when it comes to cheating cars out.
Well, if he's in front of you and he's using the brakes, there's no way you can get by, right?
Yeah, you spin them.
Well, there you go. There might be a black flag or 2 come out there at that point, Denver, right?
Here's one more thing, Tim. I forgot to say that we're going to do on the New Year's Eve thing. So we're going to race for championships this year. So what we'd like to do is the top 3 out of every class that wins the championship. I'd like to see them gear up in a Enduro car and put a 20 lap or 25 lap race on for all the top 3 championship people, and come out. Not that this is going to do anything to their class and lose their championship, but to be the championship of all of them. That's something we've been talking about.
Similar to like a race of champions sort of deal.
Right. And we just use top 3 out of each class.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that'd be a cool thing to do. When we got that marked down, that we're going to try to do that. So anyhow, we got some pretty good stuff in the works to maybe, you know me, I like to be different. I like to be the first guy at a racetrack to do something, and hopefully it works out, and then the other tracks decide to try to do something like that.
Absolutely. I know, Denver, you guys did not a complete winter race, because there was some snow on the racetrack. It was a little slick in places, right?
Yeah, it was a winter race, and let me tell you, we spent 2 weeks shoveling snow just to be ready for that, and then it turned real mild into 20 degrees all week, and there was hardly any snow left. But after spending 2 weeks shoveling, but it turned out all right. We got snow that morning, and it was wild. It was wild. They say a lot of people said that was the best demolition they ever saw, though, because when you have to have put the drivers in the snow, you see who can really drive a car. So right. Hopefully there's just enough snow for you guys for the New Year's demo next year, that you guys have the same thing, just enough snow that you get to see who can really drive a car.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
And I think the same thing they found in Sydney with like Richard Salter, Jeff Dillman, these big sportsman guys that wanted to get into an enduro and try something in the winter. And I think they found that false sense of urgency or false sense of security, I guess, going into the corner when you had a little bit of dry, and then all of a sudden you hit snow and there's no traction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, looking forward to that one coming up at the end of the season. Dennis Nickerson is in the chat. He was one of them that geared up an enduro car. I would almost believe when that schedule come out, Dennis already has that circled around on his schedule for Petty for next year. But we'll take one more dip at social media. Dylan, what do you got over there? I see Hollywood still hanging out.
Yeah, guys are all getting ready there. Wayne, for someone who's never been to Petty, no matter what they're driving, what can they expect in 2022, and why should they make the trek to Riverglade, Petticodiac, outside of Moncton? Why should they bring their car there?
Well, obviously it's a nice small track. I mean, it's banked well. It's fast. I mean, I remember when the 40 car from Frederick come down there, he was so scared of the place, and next thing I hear him in the pits just hooting and hollering. He said he never drove nothing like it, and he thought it was the greatest racetrack around.
See, Michael Cormier wrote that didn't Scotia used to do a snow race? That was the old Brass Monkey. You ever compete in one of those races?
Yeah, I won one of those.
Cold?
No, it was cold that day, but I mean, my biggest problem was the day that I run wasn't obviously didn't have the car prepared right. I actually drove a car for Jamie Creamer. He had a car that he always run Duke cars up there with, and they did that, and he got me to drive it. And a lot of guys had windshield wipers on, and I never had no windshield wiper on. So just the day of the race, they come in there, and the place is all ice. So Cecil brings up a load of crusher dust and spreads it all around the racetrack. So, what was on the windshield for 194 laps, wasn't it? 194 laps we did. Actually, I still got they give a trophy out. It was a big black bear is what it was. A monkey, was it? It was a monkey. Yeah, a big black monkey. I still have that trophy.
Just going through some comments here, seeing a story about Cy kind of running over you at Moosehead Premium Dry Speedway back in the day.
Yeah, that wasn't Cy's fault. It was obviously one of the years that we were winning the points, and it was the last race of the season. And I was leading, and the caution come out, and Cy was, I think, maybe running second, or was Cy lap car? I just forget exactly how it was, but we were going around. We were getting ready to go green. I was warming the tires up, and next thing we hit together, and my car flew up in the air and it tore the quarter panel off. It was sticking straight up in the air, and anyhow, we never pit it, went green, and ended up winning the sucker and winning the championship that year.
Few more for me here, Wayne. You already helped resurrect one track with Petty over a decade ago. Let's say mud an issue, and you get to pick one place you can resurrect. Which track are you bringing back here in the Maritimes?
Well, there's only one track left. I don't know other than Onslow. I mean, I did a lot of racing in Onslow. I just don't think I don't think you can make it where it needs to be to survive today, unless somebody that has lots of money don't care, just opens it and starts racing there. I mean, we run pro stock back in the day there, and may had great shows. It just, I don't think the land's there for the parking area anymore, and it would take a lot of money to bring it back. I mean, that's the only track that I know of that's left that you could make something out of.
No Riverglade?
I run Riverglade, obviously, and that's the first time I ever drove a pro stock was in Riverglade. I don't think you'd ever convince them to bring it back, and I don't want to really see it back.
Well, fair enough.
Too close to our place.
Fair enough.
I'm not being mean, but it's too close, and I've been buying grandstands from them, putting them up at our place, and they've been good to work with. They're concentrating on the motorbike stuff, so that's good for us.
Yeah, and that kind of transitions into my next question. I mean, the pandemic has been hard on a lot of people, but with Petty, it almost seemed to help in 2020 and 21, where you are building more stands. Like hearing, all these NASCAR tracks, they're tearing down grandstands, but Petty was expanding. 2020 was a weird year, but how was it for you and Ellen, and with the track and then leading into 22 now?
It was 2020 was the best year we ever had. And it, the biggest reason we had to put stands up, because obviously it was the 6-foot distance deal that we had to try to do. We never had Petty ever packed like I would like to pack it. The problem with Petty is we get so many damn people in the pits, which we don't have a problem with because they pay more to get in there. But, if we could, there's nights there that we could have 1,000 people in the pits. If we had 500 of them over in the grandstands, that place would go full. on a pro stock night.
And you're kind of on your vacation there with Ellen. Besides doing racing stuff, what are you two snowbirds doing in Florida? Working on your tans, going to Disney World, or just hanging out in the camper, basically?
No, we get around quite a bit. I mean, we go out for lunch. We were down at Old Town here a week or so ago and walked around and looked it over. And it's pretty down here, but you just go. I mean, there's not many people with masks on. It's just wide open. It's hard to believe. I mean, there's people getting COVID down here. There's no doubt about it. But we try to, stay away from the big crowds, and we've been lucky and never caught it yet.
You're gonna be nice and tan by race season, right?
I'm pretty tanned right now.
Tim?
Travis had said, got to convince Russell Sr. to get back behind the wheel again. And you brought up one name in Jamie Kramer. And I know I brought the Pit Lizard's name up to these two that are with us, and they said who. So can you give us a little more background on the Pit Lizard? You got any more stories about Jamie?
Jamie's got all kinds of stories. I mean, he always had some nice looking race cars for back in the day, Duke cars. He spent a lot of time at them and build them, but he could never drive. He was scared. He was scared to drive. I mean, I remember nights that he'd be running and the traffic would be coming to catch him. He would drive right off turn 1 and 2, or 3 and 4. I'm sorry. Drive right down over the bank, jump out, open the hood up, and break the transmission line off, and then get pushed back to pits and tell everybody it broke the transmission line off. He wasn't a driver, but he always had some nice race cars, and he loved the sport. I mean, back in the day, he never missed a night at Scotia Speedroad. He was there. And then his father died, and he really hasn't been around racing much after that.
Yeah, I know he dabbled around a 4-cylinder car a few years back, but I think there was one truck race at Scotia where he finished on the podium,
right.
And he got out of the truck and did the dance on the tailgate, and you swore he won the Daytona 500. It was really great to see, but miss seeing him around the racetrack. I know we got a couple of comments here about old racetracks that you either maybe have raced on or have any memories on. Stacy Clements got called old for doing this in the chat, so we'll quickly do a little bit of rapid fire for you. Atlantic Speedway.
Never raced on it.
Okay. Drag City.
Never raced on it.
Elephant Rock and PEI.
Never.
Okay.
Nope.
Cedar Mills and St. Stephen.
Nope.
So I guess they.
I'm not that old.
Oh,
I'm not that old.
Apparently, you're not as old as Stacy. So
why?
there's.
Stacy would he race at Atlantic Speedway?
I don't know. He was throwing names out that maybe that was to bring the racetracks back.
Yeah,
maybe.
I don't think he ever. I really don't know. I mean, I don't think Drag City was going when Stacy was old enough to race. I don't think. And Atlantic Speedway, I don't think he would, because I started racing when I was 15. So Stacy's a year younger than me, I think. So I don't know really where he would have raced, but
You just called Stacy old and get it done and over with, right?
I mean, I've been on Drag City before, drive around in a street car, but never ever raced on it. There was never no racing. The only thing I ever seen run at Drag City was a Demolition Derby one time. We went there, and that was the only thing I ever seen run at Drag City.
Stacy said same age, so I guess if we have to call Stacy old, we have to call you old. We'll take one more from social here that just came in. Robert Miner wants to know, what are your thoughts on the Atlantic Modifieds?
I mean, it's tough. I mean, we've been working with them very hard, trying to make it work, and we're obviously going to put them back on. We just didn't put them on the schedule yet because we didn't. I had them marked on there, but I said I better not send it out. I think they'll be back 4 times again in 2022. You know, they keep telling me they got 20 cars and they end up with 8. That's where we're 10. You know what I mean? Like, I'd love to see them show up at 15. It would be cool.
Absolutely. We're getting near the top of the hour, so we're going to wrap this up. But before we do, I know obviously you're co-owner of Petty International Raceway, kind of keeps you on a tight leash during race day. How big of a help has Ellen been on race day at the racetrack, knowing that she's probably behind you and listening to everything that we're saying?
Well, every time I come out of the pits or do something, I go to the trailer and she's sitting there having a beer. I don't understand. Most times, like.
Does Ellen want to correct that story or what?
Yeah, she probably does. Most times I can't find her. She's running around doing something. I mean, you know, we got radios on and I'm on a channel and I click to a channel and I'm talking to someone in a ticket booth. I think I'm talking to Ellen, and but she's definitely busy. She keeps the grand sides running pretty smooth.
I think, and I'm sure Ellen can back me up on this. I know there's been a couple of times in the tower where I hear in the office, or Wayne forgot his radio, Wayne forgot this, Wayne forgot that. So there's two sides to every story, right?
Yeah, I know, but you know what? If I go up early to get my radio, she says, "What do you need it now for?" So I just ignore her, and if I get a radio, I do. If I don't, well, I'll use somebody else's for a minute.
Absolutely. Stacy said the boss, and I think that rings true, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Wayne, this has been fun. I know we could go on for a little while longer, but we got to wrap the show up. This has been fun. Thanks for joining us this evening. Anything we didn't cover that you want to cover before we close this one off?
Do you need me to send you some razors, or are you good?
Okay, Robbie. I think we're fine. We'll take care of that this week.
Okay, buddy.
Yeah,
it's been fun, Tim. It's great. Thank you for calling me and getting me involved in this. It's great. I think we covered everything that we have to cover.
I think so. This has been a blast. Thanks for being a part of it. That's Wayne Smith, co-owner of Petty International Raceway and driver of the number 44 on the pro stock side of things. And that's it. That's another show for us here at TCM Live. And boys, I don't think everything was covered. I think there. That was fun. What do we do to top this one?
Well, it's kind of like the Frank Fraser episode where I think we just could have let Wayne just kind of go there. I mean, I remember watching some old NASCAR races on YouTube, and the late Ken Packham was interviewing Wayne, and Wayne was a few words back in '94, but 27 years later, he's a chatterbox there, but just so cool, wealth of knowledge, and I can't wait to get back to Petty in 2022 with Heart of a Champion, Mike Stevens, River Glade. You never know where this guy could be and wherever series goes there. And I know one thing we're going to do this weekend, Tim, to honor another Maritime great in racing. But Denver, your thoughts on tonight's episode with the Oval Outlaw?
It was honestly a blast. It was great to have Wayne on. You talk about someone who's done everything in this sport, and Wayne really has done everything. So lots of stories, lots to look forward to with Petty Raceway, and I can't wait to see the 2022 season open up, and it's going to be another good one. Hope all across the Maritimes, hopefully, but especially looking forward to getting back to Petty and watching some racing.
Absolutely. Going to be a great time. And Dylan, you hit the nail on the head. Coming up on Sunday is our next scheduled iRacing show. We may throw one in with that snowstorm coming up on Friday, but we'll have to double check and make sure everything is good to go on that. But the Jim Hallahan 333, I know Tyler Hallahan is chomping at the bit and up on the chip for that one. 333 laps at Bristol. Signups are still open. I think we're at 36 or 37 entries. We'll take 28 or so into the feature. That is going to be a blast coming up on Sunday, 1 o'clock start Atlantic. So if you want to watch that, you can watch that with our folks at Bedane TV. Dylan, you're going to be along for the ride. Mike James is ready. It's going to be a show coming up and to honor the memory of Jim Hallahan. Was a great race last year. And for those that are watching that are racing in it, the setup and practices and everything going to be hopped up tomorrow, so you can get some track time. Want to thank all of our partners and remind you that if you want to see some sim racing this evening, Bedane TV's got one coming up here at the top of the hour with the Loose Lugs Cup Series. They are beginning their round of 8 in their championship chase. So a big thank you to all the partners. Big thank you to everybody that's watched here this evening. We'll be back at it 1 week time to do some more bench racing on a Wednesday evening to help pass this winter. So for Dylan Langell, Denver Matchett, Wayne Smith, Paul Strickland Jr., my name is Tim Terry. We will see you next time when we say let's go racing. Until then, keep the hammer down. We'll see you at the track.